we've seen climate activists before that are fake. And when I say fake, I mean what they really want to do is be part of the liberal establishment, get attention.
Little AOCs.
They're little AOCs, right? They know all the words. Like there was that woman we saw that got to give a speech at that Bill Gates thing.
Yeah.
And she said that the billionaires shouldn't exist with a giggle.
Yeah, right.
And
very telegenic.
And you're like, you're being invited by Bill Gates here. You don't think they're using you? So anyway, and the Sunshine Group, right? So there's that. They're an environmental group called the Sunshine Group, right? And they're completely co-opted. They support the people burning fossil fuels. So the Sunshine Group is a fake organization that is run by fakes. And I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they support the military-industrial complex. They support the opening Alaska to the Willow Project, to drilling. They're for fracking. They're for everything. And why do I say that? Because the Sunshine Group supports Joe Biden. And that's what Joe Biden's for. So that's what they're for. There were other people running that weren't for that stuff. They didn't have to endorse him. They did. So they're all phonies. Now, you also know that Greta Thunberg is a psyop, right? She's never going to protest against the 800 military bases the United States has around the world, and the United States military is the #1 burner of carbon, and she never protests the wars. She never protests the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipeline.
There was no how dare you when she met Zelensky.
There's no how dare you when she met Zelensky. She's a psyop. She's there to keep you distracted from the real problems.
Well, I suspected it might be that when she never went to school and doesn't know anything. That's how
that could be
put it together.
Isn't it weird that she came on the stage when she was 16 and she hasn't grown an inch
I bring it up all the time.
Nowhere. She looks exactly the same.
Hasn't grown since I heard of her.
She still looks like she's 15 years old, and
probably climate change.
She's in her 20s.
Yeah, it was like how Gary Coleman. It all dawned on us he shouldn't be.
So this lady, Elise Joshi, she says she heckled the president's press secretary.
What? But that's a queer woman of color.
She is a queer immigrant woman of color.
Wow.
I just mustered up every ounce of courage to interrupt White House press secretary Jean-Pierre and urge the Biden administration to stop approving new coal, oil, and gas projects.
Good luck.
Really?
I'm sure she'll pass that up the flagpole. She'll run that right up the flagpole.
The crisis is here and now. Again, she's not protesting the 800 military bases around the world or the endless wars or the bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline.
Take away people's ovens.
Because they're for that.
Right.
They're all for that. But watch this. Here we go. She's gonna ask Joe Biden to stop approving coal, oil, and gas projects, which is kind of like asking a raccoon to stop going through your garbage at night. Okay, sure. Good luck. Here she goes.
It's really havoc on our country and across the world.
Excuse me for interrupting, but asking nicely hasn't worked out. 1 million young people wrote to the administration pleading not to approve a disastrous oil drilling project in Alaska, and we were ignored. So I'm here channeling the strength of my ancestors and generation. Will the administration stop approving new oil and gas projects and align with youth, science, and frontline communities from the North Slope of Alaska to Louisiana?
First of all, I appreciate your courage.
Okay, that's not a real protest.
Did they nail that in just one rehearsal?
That's not a real protest. When the person you're protesting thanks you and everybody else applauds around you, that's not a protest. That's weird. Don't you think that I would have thought that young lady would have been silenced like that African reporter Simon Atiba. Remember how she wouldn't let him say a thing ever?
He kept moving around, yeah.
And the other people booed him and told him to shut up. But I don't know. Maybe he forgot to call upon the power of his ancestors like this photogenic young white girl did. She had to muster up, Kurt.
Yeah.
every ounce of courage because she could have been put in invisible handcuffs like Greta or AOC.
She could have had to hold her arms as if they were handcuffed.
A real protester gets dragged out of there by their neck. She was allowed to say and talk over, and Janine or the press secretary tried to talk. She talked over her, and the press secretary shut up and let her finish.
Let her speak. What is this?
And then
tomorrow?
said, "I admire your courage."
I admire your courage. It's hard to memorize all those lines.
So, let's see what she says.
And they'll do nothing about it.
And so you all pretend like you're protesting her, and you're not. This is all a feel-good moment for all you pretending that you're fighting climate change. Let me tell you something. You're not fighting climate change. You're not fighting climate change.
The voters of tomorrow.
You're not fighting climate change. They just built another military base in Syria. They built 3 more military bases in the Philippines. The number one emitter of carbon is the United States military. And until you protest that, you are a cosplaying actor. Because you and I both know they are not going to stop burning oil until there is no more oil. We're burning more oil right now today than at any time in human history. So all this activism, all this environmentalism since Earth Day started in the 70s has gotten us to a point where we're now burning more oil than ever. We're burning more oil than we were burning 50 years ago. We're burning more oil than we were 40 years ago. We're burning more oil than we were 10 years ago. We're burning more oil than we were yesterday. And we're going to burn more oil tomorrow.
Well, don't forget coal.
It ain't stopping. So all this is cosplay, making yourself feel good. And this is by the way, this isn't real.
It sounds like TikTok bullshit is what it sounds like to
This
me.
isn't real.
And all you have to do, and I know you're speaking about a particular project, and I get that, I understand that.
You have approved multiple projects since then, and more at a faster rate than the Trump administration. We need you to act on your campaign promises.
Declare
Please.
a climate emergency.
And she looks forward to voting for Joe Biden.
Declare a climate emergency. Have they not been doing that for?
I guess they haven't declared a climate. Well, if you declare an emergency, then that gives the executive branch all these powers to do stuff.
Oh, when is Joe Biden going to lock us down again?
When is he going to start taking some executive actions? And Joe Biden told you that he was for fracking when you voted for him. Are you kidding me? So, you know, on the off chance that young lady is unaware that she's being used, I would encourage her to put her efforts against the military-industrial complex because they're never, ever going to stop burning oil.
Well, I'd say buy a fancy ball gown and tax the rich on the ass of it.
That's it.
That's my advice.
The people who you think are on your side are the people you actually should be fighting against. People like Bill Gates, the WEF, those people are going to use climate change to control you. And here's where I'm coming from. I think that, I'm sorry, we're through the looking glass. There's no turning back climate change. You know how I know? We just built 3 more new military bases. The people who claim to care about climate change keep building military bases, and you keep voting for them. So there ain't nothing that's going to stop climate change because we ain't doing anything. And the people who can do something aren't. And the people who claim that we should be the one eating bugs and not having farmed food and drive electric cars, they're all flying around in jets, private jets. So I'm not saying that climate change isn't real. I'm saying it is real. I'm saying that the people who are coming up with the ideas on how to fight it are all fakers and liars, and they're using the fear of climate change to control you instead of what they should be doing. And I want to bounce this off more people. This is my theory right now. I'm going to bounce this off more people. But I think that since we all know climate change ain't stopping, they ain't going to dismantle the fucking military. They ain't going to stop doing wars. They're going to stop blowing up Nord Stream pipelines. They're going to stop drilling in Alaska. Since we all know this, and we're burning more oil today than we did yesterday, than we did 10 years ago, and we are going to burn more for the rest of your life, that we should put our heads together to try to figure out ways to live with climate change.
Well, they figured out a way. They're going to lock you down, and then they're going to carry on as if it doesn't affect them. It's just going to affect you.
So that's what people should be looking into. That's and I'm willing to be wrong about this. I'll entertain arguments on it. And I'm not denying climate change isn't happening. I'm saying that the people who are screaming the loudest about it at the top of government and our establishment and our society don't give a shit about it to do anything.
Many of them are oil companies. That's the thing that gets me.
When an oil company says they're fighting climate change, I know they're lying. When Joe Biden opens up 3 new military bases and said he's fighting climate change, I know they're lying. Here's what our good friend of the show, Jose Vega, who has a August 8th or 6th, August 6th at the UN, they're doing a anti-war protest. Fake and staged intervention, as pointed out by Nuance Bro. She's part of the Gen Z for Change. So that's an organization.
It used to be called TikTokers for Biden. Remember that?
Which used to be called TikTokers for fucking Biden.
So I'm going to go ahead and say she also wasn't really crying. These are TikTok influencers. Everything they do, that's the new young generation of borderline psychopaths that are influencers, all of which have the most demented morals you could possibly imagine.
So he says if she was actually saying something, Corinne Jean-Pierre allowed her to speak.
Yeah. When does that happen?
When does that happen? If she was actually saying something with some weight, they would have kicked her out. Don't fall for it. It's meant to diminish the intervention principle. Speak truth always.
What's the intervention principle?
I don't know. She's the executive director of Gen Z for Change. Oh, here's Nuance Bro pointing it out, which used to be called TikTokers for Biden, and they've been to the White House multiple times.
Executive director? How old is this girl?
To meet with Biden and even Barack Obama.
So
Corinne Jean-Pierre knows exactly who she is and, of course, allowed her to speak.
It's almost like she knew the question.
Yeah, that's how it exactly sounded like, by the way.
All
Then
rehearsed.
a guy goes, call for a climate emergency. Like some guy calls out.
So here's the people from the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and they're going to tell you. So it turns out that people have different ideas about climate change. And some of them are really popular, different ideas from the establishment, just like people had different ideas about COVID and the lockdowns and vaccines and masks. And Google suppressed all those things, just like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They suppressed all those different ideas. Well, Google does that with climate change. Did you know that? Because other people's opinion about climate change were wildly popular, more popular than the establishment's view of climate change. And what did they do when they found that out?
You know, we partnered with Google, for example. If you Google climate change, you will, at the top of your search, you will get all kinds of UN resources.
Now, that's what happens now. Why is that? Why will you get all kinds of UN resources when you Google climate change now?
We started this partnership when we were shocked to see that when we Googled climate change, we were getting incredibly distorted information right at the top.
We were getting information we didn't like.
Well,
there was information when you Googled it that was so popular about climate change that it came up first in our climate change Google searches. And it was so popular that we had to suppress it.
Well, you know what it is? It really has nothing to do with the science of climate change. Let's say climate change is happening. What's being interfered with is the fear monger. Like they look down on you so much, they go, we have to tell people they're going to be dead in 5 years unless the climate people who have no power to change this, by the way, we're going to tell them the world's going to end in 5 years. Then you do that every 5 years. Nobody goes, don't you think people might think there's no such thing? When, like why I left a doomsday cult because Armageddon didn't come. Like they don't want to interfere with the tool of fear because
I
people
know.
are stupid.
I know.
They don't want you researching stuff.
They don't want you researching stuff. They don't want other Google search. They don't want links to articles that cast doubt on what they're saying being easily found by human beings on this planet.
It's a pain to debunk all the people pointing out the lies they said from 5 years ago.
Yes.
So we're becoming much more proactive.
We
we own
noticed.
the science, and we think that the world.
We own the science.
Oh, that's good.
No one should ever say that.
They own
We
Fauci?
own the science. Science is not owned. Science is never settled. Science works by questioning. And so they don't want anybody questioning their science. That's not science. That's authoritarianism.
It's like Vatican at this point.
Should know it, and the platforms themselves also do. But again, it's a huge challenge that I think all sectors of society need to be very active in.
And censoring. That's what she means. That's what she means. You should be active in what? In censoring. Should I play that again or no?
Yes.
No. Oh. It makes me too upset.
We partnered with Google, for example. If you Google climate change, you will, at the top of your search, you will get all kinds of UN resources. We started this partnership when we were shocked to see that when we Googled climate change, we were getting incredibly distorted information right at the top. So we're becoming much more proactive. We own the science, and we think that the world, should know it, and the platforms themselves also do. But
we'll tell you what to think.
Jeez.
We know what the right answer is, and we're going to tell the world what to think.
You can maybe rent the science in 2030, but you will own nothing, including science.
So this was that other.
Yeah.
This was that woman that we covered before, Michaela Loach, and she says, billionaire philanthropism will not save us. The Gates Foundation invited me to speak at their annual Goalkeepers 2030 event, and I could only show up in that space if I challenged it. Here's some of what I said. She said billionaires should not. The fact that they invited you shows that they're not afraid of you and that they wanted you there for something.
Yeah, you got your hair done real nice too. That's when once everybody's all dressed up with like the photogenic look, I'm like, this is all just like a real pageant, isn't it?
Remember this from George Orwell? It was always the women, and above all, the young ones who were the most bigoted adherents of the party, the swallowers of slogans, the amateur spies.
The future is female.
Come see our live shows. We're going to be in Chicago, Rosemont, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, New York City, Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Stamford, Toronto, Toledo, Detroit, St. Louis, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets.